That's it, I've finished my last tree plantings. It's time now to put away these tools, these gardening tools. How should I store them during the winter so that they don't rust in the spring? Before storing these tools, we will first clean them thoroughly. For that, the simplest way is to use a sponge. Use the green side, the yellow side, and the sponge side. So you will clean well to remove as much dirt as possible. There should be no dirt left on the blade or the handle. Once you have washed your spade, you will let it dry in the sun. To do this, you will hang it up with the blade facing up and the handle facing down. Now that your spade is dry, we will use sandpaper to clean this blade in order to remove all the rust. So this rust consists of small rust spots that we might find. So why should we remove this rust? Well, simply put, when you go to use the spade next year, or even this winter, you might still have dirt sticking to the blade, and that is very annoying. So for that, don't hesitate to use sandpaper. But be careful, not just any sandpaper. It needs to be very fine. If you use sandpaper with too coarse a grain, you risk scratching your spade blade. This is also true for a garden fork or a hoe, quite simply. In spring, when you are going to use it, or even this winter when you are going to push that spade into the ground, there are small adhesions and the dirt will always stick to the spade, especially if you have clay soil. Since you have sandpaper, you will take the opportunity to give the handle a quick pass with it, simply to remove any splinters. To prevent rust from returning this winter, you will use linseed oil or rapeseed oil if you have it, or why not peanut oil. Tools that are very important in the garden include the weeding knife or a knife. The blades are at risk of rusting, and they will rust anyway. You will benefit from using sandpaper to thoroughly clean that blade. For this, you will gently rub without scratching the blade, always using very fine sandpaper. Once you have used sandpaper, as with the other tools, apply linseed oil. The pruning shears also need to be cleaned, always with sandpaper. Remove all the dirt and debris, take out the spring, and apply linseed oil to everything. There is a tip to ensure that the spring remains functional. Store your pruning shears with the blade open. But be careful, if the blade is open, it is more dangerous to use, so you should keep your pruning shears out of reach of children. The last little tip regarding the storage of gardening tools is the famous tip. The hose that you find in the spring, well coiled of course, but when you take it back it gets tangled everywhere and it is even pinched. And yet there is a fairly simple trick. When you store your hose, you will need to lay it out along its entire length. So, if there are any pinched areas, you will of course need to straighten them out as much as possible. Never roll up a pinched hose, as you will end up with leaks next summer. And instead of making a circle, you will make an oval. You will start your hose, you will place the base of your hose with your foot, and you will wrap it, and you will make kind of ellipses until the end. Once you have finished coiling your hose, you should place something underneath it, because what is important is that when you store your hose, there may be water left inside, and freezing is the #1 enemy of hoses. Therefore, the hose must be thoroughly emptied. And when you go to pick up your hose, you will pull on it, and you will quickly notice that it comes apart very easily.